Hello everyone, this is Aya from Hinawi Software ERP. Our topic for today is regarding the additions and deductions form in the HRMS module. So basically, as you can see here, this is the roadmap for the HRMS activities. All the fields here, all the rows, all columns in this Excel file basically explains how the HRMS module works in Hinawi Software, along with all its details, all the workflows, steps, and processes and procedures. So I have covered an entire video to discuss the general roadmap for the HRMS, where I talked about each activity in general. However, I am covering each and every activity in its own video to discuss further details along with the entire actions, all actions regarding those activities in the HR. So our topic for today is for additions and deductions. We will see how additions and deductions activity works in Hinawi Software through the HRMS module. We will see the different categories regarding this activity, the different actions, and how do we proceed forwards with achieving accurate results and accurate workflow. So to begin with, first of all, let me scroll up. As you see here, we have the first activity is regarding creating activities. So this is entirely related to the activities. The first step is to create an activity. Is it possible to create an activity regarding the additions deductions form? The answer here is yes. So basically it's possible. By the way, notice here there are no branches. It's pretty simple and straightforward, unlike the leave form, for example, which has so many different branches. But the additions deductions is pretty simple. So regarding creating, we can create an addition deduction form. Next, editing is also available, so it's possible to edit the addition or deduction which you have created. By the way, some reasons for additions could be like a bonus. It could be like, for example, a new suggestion, a new idea over time, a new project achievement. And deduction reasons could also vary. It could be like, for example, regulations that have been, for example, not met, or for example, any fees. Those could be some different reasons for deductions. So editing that addition or that deduction is possible. Here, voiding or cancelling is not possible for additions deductions. Here, notice that in deleting, it is possible by row. So basically, you can delete an addition or deduction, erase that for specific employees one by one. You choose the employee which you want, and you for example, specify that this addition or this deduction is no longer taking place. And there is a printing feature as well, so it's possible to print the addition or deduction form, and at the end of that window you will see the total amount for the addition and the total amount for the deduction regarding all employees. Next, we have print clearance, which is not applicable for additions deductions. Printing the clearance is applicable for certain activities which will be covered in later videos, but for this video, notice that additions deductions do not have the print clearance applicable for it. There is a design and print activity for the additions and deductions form, so it's possible to design and print the additions and deductions form. It is possible and designing is available. Next, we have the predefined template for importing or autofilling, which is also applicable and existing in the additions deductions form. So, for example, importing any previous data regarding additions and deductions is available, which will automatically import or takes those specific data and balance and apply it in Hinawi Software. Autofilling is also applicable and possible. It's for time management. Basically, you save time when you autofill this kind of information and data. Next, the date from and to, which means the starting date or creating date and the ending date, is not there in the additions deductions, because it's not like a leave, it's not like any activity which requires a specific date to be selected for going and coming back from it, so it's not there. Next we have the date, requesting date or starting date, and creating or ending date. As I said, it's not applicable. We also have the date from and date to, normally within the same month. This usually applies for the absence activity. It's also not applicable for additions deductions, only for absence activity and activities like that. And the month is applicable. It's found and existing in the additions deductions, because this will mainly specify, on what month and year it will take action. So basically, on what month and on what year that addition or that deduction will be showing on the salary sheet. So that's also another thing which exists and is applicable on the additions and deductions form. We also have the day, which is applicable, and the hour, which is for timesheet employees, absences, and additions deductions. So days and hours both apply to additions and deductions form. Also, in addition to all that, notice here that we have the percent of salary, employee's salary basically. So the percent of employee's salary will definitely take action, and it will be taking place and reading from the percent of the employee's salary in case we want to have an addition or have a deduction which reads from a specific amount or a specific number that is received in the salary sheet. So it reads from the salary, that's a possibility, and over time, whether it's 1.25 or 1.50 are both applicable, and they both apply to the additions and deductions form. Taxes as well is applicable to the additions and deductions form in case we want to take it into consideration. However, the employee pension or the monthly provision are not applicable. Those are not applicable and will not take action in the additions and deductions form. Next, we have the approvals. So basically, in the approvals, there is a possibility for approving the additions and deductions, and that step, the approving step, is very important because, as you can see here, it's highlighted in orange, and orange colored, which means that you cannot proceed forwards with creating a salary sheet until that addition or that deduction has been approved. And it's possible to edit the addition and edit the deduction after you have approved it. However, you cannot void and you cannot delete the addition which has been approved or the deduction which has been approved. Notice here in the notes we have the following, which states that if the customer used a predefined template to create additions or deductions and posting to salary is automatic, then in this case approval is not required. Because as you can see here, we have two different options, either to make it automatic or to make it manual basically. And when it's set as a predefined template as automatic, in this case you do not need to approve it. It will take action every month without deciding whether approved or not. So it's not required to approve it. However, if it's not predefined to be set on automatic, then in this case you need to approve it. And you can approve more than one addition or deduction at the same time, or a group of activities at the same time. And salary sheet as well can be created based on specific employee names, specific departments, positions, all these kind of points can be covered and specified and filtered. Next, in the setup, we do have a setup for the additions deductions. So in the HRMS settings, more specifically in the general settings of the HRMS module, you can specify the setup for the additions or deductions form, and also there is an effective date. So you can specify when will this take action, when will it take place. You can specify all that within the effective date. Also, the employee's status at the time of creating an addition or creating a deduction is always active. It doesn't affect the status of employees to be inactive. It will always stay active. Active means, of course, it means that an employee is capable of taking different activities without any issues, and inactivity means that there is no possibility to search that employee's name or to create different activities or transactions, since he or she will be set as inactive. Next, in the accounting effect, there isn't any accounting effect from the additions or deductions form, since it's part of the salary sheet posting. So basically, it's not an entirely different aspect to be affecting the accounting or the QuickBooks. It's just part of the salary sheet, which will later take action and be posted to accounting. However, here the credit side is accrued AC. So basically, that is the main credit side regarding the addition or deduction. And in the payment method, notice here that you cannot do cash payment for the additions deductions. You cannot do check payment, no bank transfer, and no updating to ledger, which means no accounting entries. It's mainly just the salary sheet payment method, which is the JV, the journal voucher. And notice here it's also highlighted in orange, which means that it must be paid through salary sheet JV in order to proceed with accomplishing and completing the salary sheet successfully and accurately without any issues. In the debit side, however, of the payment method in the additions and deductions form, the debit side is expenses or cost, of course. So expenses and cost is what affects it. And the employee's salary status, as we have discussed earlier, is always active. It does not affect it and make it inactive. It always stays active. Next, regarding the calculations, the receipt voucher is not applicable on additions deductions. It's mainly applied and applicable to other activities which we have discussed earlier, such as, for example, earlier return from leave or any other specific activity, but not the additions deductions form activity. And by the way, notice here that in the employee type, both HR employees and timesheet employees can have additions and deductions created for them successfully. So it doesn't have to do with specific types of employees. They are both applicable. Next, we also have the web module, as you know, not only the desktop version, but the additions deductions are not contained in that web module. So you cannot create an addition deduction from the web module, only from the desktop version. Same thing applies to the mobile module. It is there, like the web and the mobile version are there, but the addition deduction activity specifically is not there. But in general, the web and the mobile is along with the desktop version for Hinawi Software, which will cover a wide criteria of different activities, but not the additions and deductions. Let's talk a little bit here about the salary sheet and the memo. As you can see here, in the salary sheet, it is orange colored, orange highlighted, which means that it's very important, and we will cover an entire video about it, about the salary sheet in depth, where we discuss the activities, whether it's created for both HR or timesheet the same way or not, whether we can delete, void, or cancel. Like, the salary sheet is basically the output of every input that has been inserted and created in the system. So this is just in general about the salary sheet, where we can set different actions on it. The memo, we have the setup. Of course, there's the setup for the salary sheet. it states that employees must be active at the time of creating the salary sheet, and that it's applicable for both HR and timesheet employees, and that it will definitely, salary sheet JV will definitely read from the employee's salary information and all their allowances for the specific month. So as we said here, when we have a specific addition or deduction added, it will be added to the employee's salary, which will be resulting and displayed at the time of creating the salary sheet. And there's a credit, there's a debit side for the salary sheet. There is a web module for the salary sheet, which allows you to create as beta format a salary sheet on the web module. We will discuss and cover the salary sheet topic in an entire video mainly for it, but let me talk a little bit about the memo before I end this video. So in the memo, as you see here, we have the following rules and regulations and restrictions. Basically, what does effective date means? In the memo, it says that the user must make sure that this date is there and it's correct and saved successfully before saving. So this date is linked with many different activities, which in our case also is the addition deduction, and it will affect the salary sheet. So you always have to make sure when will it start taking action, when will the salary sheet be reading from that effective date according to what you have created earlier in the setup of the effective date or at the time of creating the activity. You have to please read all the messages before saving, because the software in general always gives you pop-up messages which will show you a specific piece of information and specific data which you should keep in mind before proceeding forwards with saving. And you have to always check the employee's status and the salary sheet status if the system does not allow you to continue saving, or if the employee is not showing the salary sheet. There is a very wide number of reasons why the employee's name will not be showing the salary sheet. So you have to always make sure what is the exact reason. Is he or she inactive? Stopping their salaries is existing? What is the reason? And what is their statuses? So this is a very important point which should be taken into consideration. You have to always follow the system rules and always follow the steps, since they are very important. And customers' responsibility is following those rules, because if later on those rules are broken, you might not expect what the consequences or the results might be, whether negative or not. So you always have to make sure that the rules are followed strictly. Also, if an employee has many different leaves, you must create leave return before proceeding with each one. So this is how the system will know that the employee has returned from their leave, whether it's an annual leave, whether it's a leave without pay. You always have to return from that leave. And we have covered an entire video for that leave activity in the HRMS module. And always keep in mind that it's possible to create multiple loans at the same time, but approval is a must to continue the process. Because how can you proceed with the process successfully without approving, right? So it's a very important point. Also, here it says that if the customer uses a predefined template to create the addition deduction and posting salary sheet is automatic, then in this case approval is not required. We have talked about this point in the additions deductions form, as I have said earlier, that when it says that it's predefined as being automatic, then in this case you do not need to approve it. Approval is only needed when it's not automatic, when it's set as manual. Also, keep in mind that the calculation of the annual leaves balance says that the system will read the total due days from the joining date until the start date of the leave minus the total number of days which has been already taken earlier. And this occurs if the leave's opening balance is not used. So that is how the calculation of annual leave balance works in case, for example, the leave opening balance is not used. And in case of opening balance, the system will not take the joining date, it will rather take the next day of the opening balance. So also this is a very important point regarding opening balance. Next, we have here, it says that the most of the activities need to be approved before creating salary sheet. Of course, not all of them, but the majority of them. And any activity that has been created in the effect and affected in the present time must be approved. However, if it's, for example, it will take action in the future, or not in this current salary sheet, but in the future salary sheets, then in this case, you do not necessarily need to approve it immediately, but eventually you will need to approve it. Next, we have that the user cannot create a salary sheet for any month unless previous months are already created. So basically, you cannot skip a month and create the next month. It has to be set in order. And system can do partial approval of the salary sheet by selected months, positions, or departments. So you don't need to approve the entire salary sheet entirely for everyone. You are capable of filtering and selecting specific categories to be approved. And of course, once the payroll start date is set and the salary sheet is created, in this case, system will not allow to change the previous date. Let's see an example here, that if the setup of the payroll start date is January 2020, you cannot change back last salary sheet of January 2020, which has been created. And always remember to post the activities, approved activities, to accounting, because this will assure you that accounting, which is QuickBooks, and Hinawi Software are both updated successfully and both on the same page. And also keep in mind that payments must be done from the activity menu itself. You don't need to go to the accounting menu and proceed with payments, because that's the main point of an ERP system, is to make it easier for you to go through payment methods without going to the accounting menu itself. And the payments cannot be split in the salary sheet for the same employee, which means that different employees can have different payments decided or divided, but not for the same employee. Same employee has to be having one payment method, and you cannot have more than one type for the same employee. Next, an important point regarding stopping or releasing the salary states that kindly use the stop or release salary for employees who suddenly got absent for some time, for example 1 to 2 to 3 days, rather than providing a previous notice. But when do you know if a leave without pay is required? It's when, for example, an employee has informed the person in charge about the absence for several days, weeks, months, and in this case, leave without pay is more recommended, not stopping and releasing back the salary. And the absconded workers is basically used when there is official data that this employee is out of the country, but in stopping and releasing the salary, you're not 100% sure their location is. So basically that is a very important point to be taken into consideration as well. And that is the end of today's video. Please make sure you understand these points clearly from the current HRMS roadmap before going to the software itself and creating activities from there, because this is like an entire roadmap for you. So make sure you understand those steps, make sure you understand the procedures and the workflows regarding those activities, and don't forget to like this video and share it with everyone interested, and also to subscribe to our channel and stay tuned for our next videos. Thank you.